On the next edition of SciTech Now, find out how the Fayetteville Library is encouraging visitors to make noise and make things.
For us, this idea that the library is not only the center of our community out here in Fayetteville, the library is the center of the community. If we look at it regionally or even statewide, what we've done here at the Fayetteville Free Library has resonated out rapidly.
SciTech Now's Hari Srinivasan speaks with an artificial intelligence expert who says computers will soon be able to design themselves. See how doing, rather than just listening, is helping students learn science and math. And see just how powerful Mother Nature can be when she unleashes hurricanes, earthquakes, and volcanoes. I'm Simon Perez. Join us for stories of science, technology, and innovation on the next SciTech Now.
SciTech Now is made possible through the support of our members.
Mohawk Valley Community College. Your future starts here, offering education and workforce development ranging from hands-on to high-tech, including nano, manufacturing, electrical engineering, and more. More information at mvcc.edu.
And by Giotto Enterprises, whose companies include Fiber Instrument Sales, The Light Connection, Molding Solutions, and Firmer Precision, providing solutions for fiber optic, telecom, molding, and CNC machining industries. More information at giottoenterprises.com.
Hello, I'm Simon Perez. Welcome to SciTech Now, our weekly program bringing you the latest breakthroughs in science, technology, and innovation here in Central New York and across the country. And we start at a library in Fayetteville that's changing the way we think about libraries. No longer just a place to whisper and check out books, the Fayetteville Free Library is inviting people to experiment with new technology. Let's take a closer look at the Fab Lab.
How are you supposed to get down? Oh, you fell down?
Yes. Our job is to understand what the community is interested in and to kind of forecast and make good decisions now about what are the types of things that we should be allocating our resources towards. For us, this idea that the library is not only the center of our community out here in Fayetteville, the library is the center of the community. If we look at it regionally or even statewide, what we've done here at the Fayetteville Free Library has resonated out rapidly, out not only to communities across New York State, but across the country, and now literally around the world. The reality of the situation is today in 2015, we are more relevant, valuable, impactful, and I would argue essential in every community than we ever have before. Information is power, knowledge is power, access to technology and to resources like books and digital content or whatever it might be. If a public library isn't easily available to you and you're not a student in college or you're not somehow paying a fee to access this information, you are a have-not. A public library flattens that playing field and makes it level for everyone.
It looks pretty good in this one.
I've always wanted to write a comic, but I every time I tried to write it with a pencil, the pencil would run out so much that it looked just too sloppy, so I was like, how am I supposed to make a comic? So we sat down, we talked, and we said, what should we do with the bad guy? Since these episodes aren't going to be like that long, they're only going to be like 5 minutes. So we said, why don't we turn the bad guy later in the movie to make him look like this, and to change his mask. So he would look more powerful.
I'm getting attacked.
Your library experience is exactly what you make of it. So you could come into the Fayetteville Free Library and maybe have a more traditional sense of what a library means to you. You'll find it here. And it's up to you how you interface with the opportunities that are here at the library. We strive to make sure that in our pursuit of digital literacies and supporting entrepreneurship and invention discovery, we're not losing sight of the idea that we're here for everybody. And everybody has different needs and different interpretations about what a public library should be. And it doesn't matter if I'm only 7 years old. I have this idea. and my public library can help me make it possible.
I've played survival games before on like
Everybody's a maker. Everybody's got some kind of interest and passion, and maybe they haven't identified it yet, but maybe by being a member of a community that has a fabrication lab or a makerspace in their library, it might challenge them to think about their own potential in terms of being able to create something with their own hands. If we can find ways to put things on this platform, opportunities on this platform that help people or communities to make their life better, then I'm grateful. That's what we're here for.
It's kind of like being on a magic carpet.
We can bring these opportunities to a centralized place in every community across the country, and we can freely and openly create these opportunities for people to come together, learn together, think together, but most importantly, just like Neil Gershenfeld said all those years ago, to connect, and for communities to become stronger simply by creating those opportunities for information and knowledge to be transferred from one neighbor to the next. We're at a pivotal time, I think, in helping not only our industry, but even outside of our industry, educators and practitioners like scientists and engineers, et cetera. We need to be getting them onto our platforms and finding ways to allow for them to share their knowledge. What we do is what we do well. We reach out and we find that talent. We have those conversations, both formally and informally, to get those community members onto the platform and then provide them with the equipment and the software and the tools and the space and the support, whatever it is, so that they can share their knowledge. But then we get out of the way and we allow that knowledge exchange and really compelling that new knowledge to be created here. And it happens every day in that Fab Lab and in that digital creation lab. It's really exciting and powerful and important.
The Fab Lab is free and open to everyone. For more information about hours and programs, go to our website. Computers have been getting smarter for quite some time now. Search engines can learn where you like to shop. A computer can beat humans at Jeopardy! SciTech Now's Hari Srinivasan spoke with an artificial intelligence expert who says computers aren't quite as smart as humans, but they're getting close.
It's a big question. Where is it heading?
Well, it's been heading in one direction for 60 years. It's just taken a long time getting there. I think as the name suggests, it essentially implies that computers can become as smart as people. That was a vision that some of the early computer scientists had. They were way ahead of themselves. The technology just wasn't ready. And so the history of artificial intelligence has been a history of disappointment. People talked about the AI winter in the 80s and the 90s because nothing happened. Well, we are now in a boom time for artificial intelligence because guess what? The technology has finally caught up. Computing power is now growing astronomically. And so a lot of the kind of hopes are starting to be realized. It's not that computers are as smart as people yet, but they're doing things, in the last 2 to 3 years in particular, they've started to do things that nobody thought was possible.
For example?
Well, so you mentioned Watson. Understanding language is an incredibly hard thing to do. And we find it very easy. Computers haven't been able to do that. For a computer to be able to beat a human at Jeopardy, a word game which involves complex puns, is just very, very, very hard. And when IBM did that 3 years ago, a lot of people in computer science were, quite frankly, shocked. And it's quite a breakthrough.
So that's one example. That's sort of, you could shove all of Wikipedia into a box and hopefully it can be faster than Ken Jennings. But what are the kind of real hopes that scientists have beyond the kind of game application? How do they see computers interacting with us to perhaps solve some of life's big mysteries and challenges?
Well, I think the Watson example is based on what is known as machine learning. So essentially what you're doing is you're pumping vast amounts of data. So this takes advantage of big data, which has been the big jargon in the tech industry. So you're pumping all that data into a machine and it's finding patterns. It's hunting through things and finding answers that that humans could find if our brains were big enough, and they aren't. Now, if you apply that to all kinds of fields, say medicine, the potential in, for instance, disease discovery or finding solutions to cancer, actually, it might become possible. And so IBM's already doing that. A lot of companies are looking at healthcare, at the environment, for instance. So climate change is a very, very complex area. Potentially in 10 years' time, we could solve some of these problems. Of course, solving the politics, is going to take longer, but the science, actually, we could start to find answers.
So on the hopes and dreams side, there's the cure to cancer, which might be assisted by AI. And there, along with the hopes, there's also this kind of fear threat. I mean, Stephen Hawking, a brilliant scientist, said that, this moment, this singularity when computers get smarter than us might actually be the beginning of the end of us. Why are they so scared?
I mean, it seems counterintuitive that, that we would build a machine that we could no longer control. And yet, it's a story of all complex systems, if you like. We already know from even the air traffic control systems we build, we have plane crashes because humans flying machines interacting with computers make mistakes. Well, if you now multiply that by a factor of 1,000 or 1,000,000 and think about what an incredibly intelligent computer would do, designed by humans, you can start to see that there would be unintended consequences we simply couldn't anticipate. And then if you marry that with the fact that very soon the computers will be building themselves. Once they become as intelligent as people, they won't expect us to improve them. They'll be able to do a better job themselves.
Right.
And so how will they explain to us with smaller brains what they're doing to improve themselves?
Let's kind of game this out in some of the ripple effects or the consequences, unintended or otherwise. I mean, how does a society function where you have this class that is enormously more intelligent and more capable in certain ways, and we kind of humans are just kind of walking around still having to eat food and still having to go to sleep at night, et cetera? I mean, let's say, for example, even how we govern. I mean, what does democracy do in the light of this inequity?
Well, we're already going to be facing some of these issues in the next 5 to 10 years because complex algorithms fed by vast amounts of data are going to be starting to optimize many parts of our life. We're currently living in an era of data overload and internet overload, and we can't find the answers we want, and we can't sort all this information to make the right decisions. And our leaders are in a similar position. They have a lot of expertise backing them up, but they're relying increasingly on computers and I think artificial intelligent computers like Watson will be playing this role in the next 5 to 10 years to sort through the various information they need to make very complex policy decisions and to recommend the optimized route. And it's going to become very hard for humans to turn their back on a machine that gives you a preferred answer. We like to think that humans will still make the decisions, and we will, but how do we second guess the machines when they start to become smarter? It's going to become very complex.
And who makes these machines? I mean, in 25, 35 years ago, you could say the only people with the big enough checkbooks were, say, DARPA or some sort of government-funded agency somewhere around the world, but increasingly that's not the case, and it's more likely to be a private corporation, whether it's Apple or it's Google or it's Facebook, or who has these large data sets and who has the computing power and keeps building it.
Well, you put your finger on it. AI is now a race between a handful of very big corporations. Google, obviously, Facebook, that has 3 AI labs around the world, Amazon, Baidu in China. And the reason these companies are investing so heavily is because this is the future of the information business, if you like. That if Google and Facebook exist and make money because they help us to find things we're interested in, well, AI will take that a big step further and will help to sort the world for us. If you can imagine marrying Watson, this question and answer voice-activated thing with a machine behind it that can sort all the world's information, and you can put it on a smartphone, then you can very quickly see that the world will change because anything we want, we will simply talk to our phones. And that's a vision that all these big companies are chasing very fast.
Well, this is also a vision that the movie Her had, right? Where people were having these relationships with their smartphones, and obviously the director intentionally made it out where people were walking down the streets and they weren't actually having conversations with other human beings, they were having conversations with their kind of AI.
Well, we already live in that world. You walk down the street and people are looking at their phones at the moment. If you'd shown that image to people 10 years ago, it would have seemed like some future they couldn't imagine because we didn't have smartphones. So why shouldn't we be talking to them?
All right, Richard Waters, the West Coast editor of the Financial Times. Thanks so much.
Pleasure.
Not everyone's enthused about the improvements in artificial intelligence. Renowned scientist Stephen Hawking fears at some point human biological evolution just won't be able to keep up, and in his words, people would be superseded by computers. With U.S. high school math and science test scores ranked 27th in the world, teachers are scrambling to figure out how to improve student performance. As SciTech Now contributor Andrea Vasquez tells us, one strategy sounds like an old Home Depot commercial. You can do it, we can help.
As a high school physics student, Seth Gunyals-Kupperman enjoyed the subject, but not the way it was taught.
I was kind of frustrated. I don't just want to watch my physics teacher do physics in front of us. I want to do some physics. Can we do some physics, please?
Now a teacher at a math and science-focused high school, Gunyals-Kupperman found the antidote in modeling instruction, an approach to teaching that relies less on lectures and textbooks and more on students' hands-on experiments.
Instead of having students kind of quietly do work cloistered by themselves, they're conversing, they're deducing, they're problem solving, they're sharing. It really moves us to be learners together rather than just kind of passive receivers of knowledge.
The United States ranks 25th in mathematics and 17th in science among industrialized nations, a standing the Obama administration calls unacceptable. Gunyals-Kupperman is among a growing number of educators who think modeling instruction can help change that. He and teachers from around the country and across the world gave up 3 weeks this summer to attend one of the workshops that the American Modeling Teachers Association helped put on in 20 states and 3 countries.
About 10% of the physics teachers in the country have gone through a modeling workshop, and a fair fraction of the chemistry teachers. There are probably well over 1,700 teachers that are members of the American Modeling Teachers Association, and its membership curve is going up pretty steeply.
From 2010 to 2020, the U.S. Department of Education projects double-digit increases in the number of STEM jobs. But it reports that only 16% of high school seniors are proficient in math and interested in a STEM career. Seeing the growing need, science educators developed modeling instruction, and the American Modeling Teachers Association was formed to train teachers to bring it into their classrooms. The method aims to help students essentially do science rather than memorize facts.
We collect evidence, we analyze it, we see some patterns in it. Can we use these patterns to come up with some kind of model, and then we can use it to predict other situations?
We're trying to recreate that experience all the time in what we do in the classroom, so that the kids see science not just as a body of facts and figures, but as a human intellectual endeavor that's a creative process of building models and thinking about how does the world work and how do we best represent and communicate how the world works. And too often our science education misses out on that.
With this method, teachers push students to develop a model and to answer a question. Students then experiment with their models and record the data.
The fact that they could use diagrams or maybe a graph to do something instead of equations, that helped a lot of the kids with the varying math abilities. Like a test question might say you can use equations or you can use the graph. It really reaches different learning styles that way.
After making sense of their discoveries, the budding scientists present and discuss the results with their classmates. Although instructors guide students, modeling instruction flips the traditional teacher-student dynamic, and that can take some getting used to for everyone.
We as teachers get so caught up in we want to make sure that the students understand everything, so we tell them and tell them and tell them over and over again. But really, the people who understand are always the people doing the talking. So if we want students to understand, we need to ask them to start doing the talking. It's no longer memorizing a body of facts, it's actually doing science.
I mean, I heard them a couple of times, can't we just have something to memorize? Can't we just have a worksheet? I said, nope, that's not how it works. And it was a little bit of a learning curve at first, and then from there, it just, they really kind of got into it a lot more.
From Oregon to Rhode Island, there's a growing list of states adopting the next generation science standards, a new set of benchmarks that reform science education. And those leading the way in modeling instruction say the approach fits right in with the new focus on teaching students to think like scientists.
When students feel as though they're going through those same experiments and they're reaching conclusions that these great scientists have made, that's what the most empowering part of modeling is, because they feel as though they're coming up with these models and making achievements and discoveries for themselves.
As modeling instruction infiltrates more classrooms, teachers are pushing to raise their students' engagement in STEM and ultimately create a more competitive workforce for the future.
We're trying to engage students in 21st century science that really involves knowing enough foundational science and enough ability to continue to learn science.
Having students leave high school valuing and appreciating science is going to be extremely important to how open-minded they will be to become more educated about policy decisions or in jobs, and just open-minded and not fearful of the science that is integrated with every profession that we have nowadays.
Keeping students interested is a challenge. One report reveals every year about 1 million high school freshmen say they're interested in science and math, but by the time they graduate, more than half of them have moved on to other fields. Superstorm Sandy, the tornado that hit Joplin, Missouri, these natural disasters and others remind us of the power of Mother Nature. SciTech Now contributor Andrea Vasquez takes us inside an exhibit that explores what we know about natural disasters and what we don't.
Every day, threats are brewing in the sky, in the sea, and beneath our feet in the form of natural disasters like tornadoes, earthquakes, and volcanoes from shifts in the Earth's land masses and weather patterns.
Every year, the quantity of magma or molten rock that it would take to fill Central Park to a height of 7 kilometers moves through our planet and approaches the surface of the Earth. Now, maybe 10% of that, a small fraction of it, actually erupts at surface.
In 2013, 9 severe weather and climate events in the United States had price tags of $1 billion or more in damage and losses. Although scientists' understanding and ability to predict these events have improved, it's a work in progress. American Museum of Natural History President Ellen Futter says that's where her institution comes in, with its exhibition, Nature's Fury.
There is still plenty of misunderstanding about why these disasters happen and how. And our ability as individuals and societies to prepare for, cope with, and recover and learn from these disasters is entirely dependent on our understanding of the volatile and sometimes destructive forces that shape our planet Earth, and that is where this exhibition comes in.
Nature's Fury takes us through the causes of natural disasters, the risks they pose, and their consequences. The exhibition's curator, Edmund Matei, says the more we understand about these events, the better we can prepare for them.
We can all understand these natural disasters in terms of the risks they pose as a means of protecting ourselves. The risks provide a sensible way, a rational way to develop mitigation policy, and that leads to protection, basically.
Some of the most basic and essential meteorological tools, including the rain gauge, barometer, and thermometer, were invented between the years 1400 and 1700. New technology, such as radar, satellites, and GPS, as well as instant global communication, have made collecting and analyzing data faster and more precise. But at the end of the day, technology is just one tool in understanding Earth's natural phenomena.
There's no question that technology feeds into that, but science is a continuous process of observation and knowledge, building on knowledge, and so on. It's not just a process of introduction of new technology.
The exhibit uses events including the 1906 San Francisco earthquake, Mount St. Helens eruption in 1980, and Hurricane Sandy to draw a real-life connection between visitors and this global issue.
And this, of course, is what this museum does best, illuminating the scientific basis of the natural world around us so that people can both better understand how humans fit into the larger scheme of things and make more informed decisions about their own lives.
There are still gaps in our understanding, and scientists are using data from each new natural disaster to try to fill in the blanks.
We are keenly aware that there has just been a lot of natural disasters all over the world. And one of the things that makes this urgently interesting and creates an acute opportunity that I would say is a teaching opportunity and an informing opportunity for the public is it's not just that it's elsewhere in the world, but also here.
And that's it for this edition of SciTech Now. For more information on science, technology, and innovation, visit our website at wcny.org/SciTechNow. And you can join the conversation on Facebook and Twitter. Next week on SciTech Now, see teachers in Central New York slip into spacesuits to help their students learn. Then we dig a little deeper into the science behind urban farming. And we show you how to read faster, a whole lot faster. I'm Simon Perez. We'll see you next week on SciTech Now.
SciTech Now is made possible through the support of our members.
Mohawk Valley Community College. Your future starts here, offering education and workforce development ranging from hands-on to high-tech, including nano, manufacturing, electrical engineering, and more. More information at mvcc.edu.
And by Giotto Enterprises, whose companies include Fiber Instrument Sales, The Light Connection, Molding Solutions, and Firmer Precision, providing solutions for fiber optic, telecom, molding, and CNC machining industries. More information at giottoenterprises.com.